My sister made me a fake date and set me up, so I destroyed her. I don't usually share things like this, but I need to put it somewhere. I've tried writing it down for myself, but it doesn't help. Maybe if someone else reads it, it'll stop spinning in my head. Maybe someone can tell me what to do next, because right now, I feel like I'm floating outside my body. It started with a favor. One simple favor. I'm 28. My younger sister, Mallory, is 25. We're not especially close, but we've always gotten along fine. We shared a house growing up, a few vacations, and the usual mix of sibling rivalry and adult distance. Nothing dramatic. That changed a few weeks ago. Mallory had been acting odd recently, getting unusually invested in my dating life, which had never been her thing before. She started making strange comments, like, "You always go for girls who don't challenge you," or, "You should take a risk for once." I mostly brushed it off. She's always had strong opinions, but it felt a little more personal this time. Then came the text. She messaged me out of the blue, asking for a favor. One of her friends, Delilah, had just gotten out of a rough breakup and was feeling down. Mallory wrote, she could really use a boost right now. Just one drink. Be nice. Make her feel good about herself. No pressure. I wasn't particularly interested, but I figured, sure. It's one drink. I wasn't seeing anyone, and my last few dates hadn't gone anywhere. Maybe it'd be a decent night, or at the very least a harmless gesture. I wish I had said no. Delilah showed up 20 minutes late to the bar. No apology. Just walked in, looked me up and down, and said, "Oh. I thought you'd be taller. I'm just under 6 feet." It's not something I think about often, but the tone she used made it feel like an insult. From there, things didn't improve. She ordered one of the most expensive cocktails on the menu without even glancing at me, let alone asking if I was covering the tab. Then she launched into a long story about her ex, how disappointing most men are, and how she was used to being treated like royalty. She laughed at her own jokes, rolled her eyes when I tried to say anything, and made several comments that made me uncomfortable, about the bartender's accent, about my job in IT, calling it assistant energy like it was beneath her. I kept trying to reset the tone of the conversation, trying to find a neutral ground. But after she laughed at my job and suggested I probably spent more time organizing spreadsheets than doing anything important, I decided I'd had enough. I pulled up the check, split it down the middle on Venmo, and told her I had an early meeting the next day. She gave me this long, exaggerated sigh, like I'd just ruined some big romantic moment, and said, "Of course you'd leave early." I nodded, thanked her for coming out, and walked out. I didn't text her after that. 2 days later, I blocked her on Instagram when she started liking old photos of mine, stuff from years ago. I figured that was the end of it. Just another awkward date. I was wrong. This morning, I was still in bed when someone knocked at my front door around 7:40 a.m. I wasn't expecting a delivery or anything. I pulled on a shirt, opened the door. 2 uniformed officers were standing there. Behind them was Delilah, crying into a tissue. And behind her, Mallory. I didn't understand what I was looking at. I didn't even know what to say. The officers asked if they could talk to me. They said I wasn't under arrest, but they were following up on a concern. One of them said, "There's been an allegation about something that happened after a date last week. Some unwanted contact." I genuinely thought I misheard him. I told them, "We got one drink." I took an Uber home. I didn't even walk her to her car. My voice felt distant, like I was speaking underwater. The officer nodded. "We're just here to hear your side. No formal complaint has been filed. Yet." I looked past them at Delilah, who was still crying, but staring directly at me. And Mallory. Mallory wouldn't meet my eyes. She just stood there, stiff, like she was watching a scene she'd rehearsed. Then she said something I'll never forget. "Just be honest with them, Rory. This doesn't have to get worse." What was I supposed to say to that? Be honest about what? Nothing had happened. There was no misunderstanding to explain away. I hadn't touched Delilah. I hadn't even sat close to her. I told the officers I wouldn't say anything else without a lawyer and closed the door. And now I'm here. In my apartment, pacing like I'm trying to wear a path into the floor. I've spent the entire day pulling up everything I can from that night. The Uber receipt, timestamped 9:52 p.m. from the bar straight to my apartment. I found the Venmo request to Delilah, timestamped. I pulled up a text I sent to a friend the same night, saying, "That date was a disaster. I need to sleep that off. I never left my apartment after that Uber dropped me off. I haven't done anything wrong. But the thing that keeps playing in my mind more than the cops at my door, is the look on my sister's face. She wasn't surprised. She wasn't confused. She looked like someone who already knew what I was about to hear. She looked prepared. And now I'm beginning to wonder, was this ever about Delilah? Or was this about Mallory all along? I don't know what to do. I've never felt so betrayed, and I've never been so afraid of something I didn't even do. I haven't left my apartment all day. My phone's been in my hand for hours, battery almost dead, not from talking to anyone, but from pulling up every scrap of evidence I can find. Screenshots. Receipts. Anything to make sense of what just happened. Not because I need to prove it to myself, I know what happened, but because I'm scared I'll need to prove it to someone else. I keep circling back to that moment at the door. 2 police officers. My sister, Mallory. Her friend, Delilah. The look in Mallory's eyes when she said, "Just tell them the truth." It wasn't sadness. It wasn't disbelief. It was control. Like she had planned for this moment and was watching it unfold the way she wanted. After I closed the door, I messaged my friend Camden, the one I texted after the date. I asked him if he still had our chat from that night. He replied right away, "Yeah, dude. You said she was the worst date you've had in a year." He sent me the screenshot. 9:56 p.m., she showed up late, insulted my job, ordered a drink like it was a transaction, and then acted annoyed I wouldn't cover it. I wanted to launch myself into a wall. I've got that now too. And then there's the Uber ride, timestamped. From the bar to my apartment. 9:52 p.m. No stops. No delays. That's hard data. But here's the thing that really shook me, I started thinking about Mallory's behavior over the last month. Not just this one night, but before that. How she kept making passive comments about my dating life. How she kept suggesting I wasn't challenging myself. How she brought up Delilah in the first place. I always thought she was just being a meddling sister. Maybe projecting. Maybe trying to feel involved. But now I think it was more than that. It's like she wanted this to happen. And then came the real confirmation. I called someone I never thought I'd need to drag into this, Nell. She's part of Mallory and Delilah's wider friend group. I don't know her well, but we've hung out at a few events. She's kind, always polite, and never got caught up in drama. I figured if anyone would be honest, it was her. I told her what happened. Asked her, gently, if Delilah had said anything about me after the date. Nell went quiet for a second, then said, "Rory. I wasn't supposed to say anything, but yeah." She was upset. Not about the date, really. About how it ended. She said you walked out early and didn't text her back. I told her I paid for my own half, left politely, and never promised anything. What part of that was leading someone on? She thought it was disrespectful, Nell said. I told her it sounded like it just didn't click, but Mallory kind of backed her up. She said you've always thought you're above other people and maybe it was time someone showed you you're not. I didn't even respond for a moment. My brain froze. Mallory said that? My sister? That I think I'm better than others? I'm not someone who ever claimed to be perfect. I'm quiet. I'm careful. I've had relationships that didn't work out, but I've always been honest. And now I'm sitting here listening to someone explain that Mallory, who knows me better than almost anyone, has been telling people I deserve to be taken down a notch. That's not just a comment. That's intent. That's motive. And I started thinking, what if this whole thing was a setup? What if it started with that favor? Mallory didn't ask me to go on a date. She framed it like I'd be doing someone a kindness. One drink. Just boost her confidence. No pressure. But now, after hearing what Nell said, it feels more like I was being baited into something. Maybe Delilah thought this would be an ego repair moment. A feel-good rebound story. And when I didn't give her that, when I didn't play along, it embarrassed her. Mallory must have picked her up that night, and they stewed in it. Rewrote it. Gave it a darker spin. And now? It's turned into something far more dangerous. Let me pause for a second and just say this clearly, nothing happened on that date. No touching. No flirtation. Nothing even resembling closeness. She tapped my arm once when she laughed, and I moved back slightly. I remember it clearly, not because it stood out, but because it was one of the only moments where there was even a physical acknowledgement between us. I didn't reciprocate. It felt forced. At one point she said, "Chivalry is dead," after I told her I was splitting the check. I smiled and said, "It was nice meeting you," and left. I didn't follow her. I didn't wait for her outside. I didn't even know what car she drove. But according to Nell, Delilah told some of their mutual friends that I waited for her outside and said I wasn't used to being rejected. That's what she's going around saying. I took an Uber home. I have the timestamp. The idea that I would do what she's describing, it makes my chest tighten. Because if I didn't have that receipt, I don't know where I'd be right now. And that's what's terrifying. Someone can say something and, if the timing is right, and if enough people support the story, it can become real to others. And my sister was part of it. I didn't want to believe it. Even after the officers left. Even after her blank expression. But hearing Nell say what Mallory told her. That I needed to be knocked down a peg? That's not something you say about your brother unless you're angry. Or worse, unless you planned something. I've started a folder on my laptop. I don't know if this is going to escalate, but I won't be caught unprepared. Inside the folder is the Uber receipt with pickup and drop-off times. The Venmo split with Delilah. Screenshots of the group chat where I talked about the date. A voice memo I recorded during my second call with Nell, once she started talking about what Mallory said. My Instagram activity log showing I blocked Delilah days after she started liking my old photos. A screenshot of Delilah's profile showing she followed me, liked old posts, and was later blocked. I'm not a paranoid person. Or at least I didn't used to be. But now? I don't trust what's coming next. Because this isn't about a misunderstanding. It's about pride. It's about power. And someone I trusted, someone I grew up with, is choosing a side. Not mine. I didn't sleep that night. Even though I knew I had the evidence to prove where I was and when, I couldn't stop thinking about what would have happened if I didn't. One missing screenshot, one lost receipt, and I might be sitting in a completely different reality right now. That's the part that keeps circling back, how thin the line was between truth and accusation. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Nothing high profile, just someone a colleague had recommended for general legal advice. His name was Mr. Clement, older guy, soft voice but sharp questions. I gave him the basics over the phone and then sent over everything I'd gathered, Uber receipts, Venmo timestamps, messages, the audio clip from Nell, even the block history from social media. He called me back 2 hours later and asked something that stopped me cold. Is there any chance this was coordinated? I'd thought about it, of course. But I hadn't said it out loud. Saying it made it feel like some overdramatic theory, like I was writing my own thriller novel. But when he said it, so calmly and without judgment, it felt different. He said he'd worked with clients before who were targeted with exaggerated or outright false accusations, usually out of revenge, emotional pain, or someone trying to regain control over a social narrative. And in cases where it wasn't just one person making the accusation but someone else helping them shape the story? That's when you had to start thinking in terms of planning, not just impulse. That made me remember something I hadn't checked yet, location history. Mallory and I used to have each other on Find My iPhone, back when she was in college and my parents asked us to keep tabs during her late-night campus walks. I forgot it was still active. I hadn't looked at it in months, maybe years. But I opened it now. And there it was. On the night of the date, Mallory had been within a block of the bar. Not across town like she said. Not at work. The location history showed her near a cafe across the street for over an hour, starting around the same time Delilah and I sat down. I stared at the screen for a long time before I took the screenshot. Not because I doubted what I was seeing, but because I knew what it meant. She was there. Maybe not sitting with us. Maybe not even within earshot. But close enough to watch. Close enough to pick Delilah up afterward. Close enough to help shape the story that was about to unravel my life. And yet, this still wasn't the bottom. Not yet. I reached out to Nell again. I told her I appreciated what she shared and that I wasn't looking to pull her into anything, but that I needed to know exactly what Delilah told everyone. I asked if her story had changed. Nell took a long time to respond. When she did, it was in the form of a voice memo. Her voice was quiet and tense. Delilah told us she was crying in the parking lot, and you followed her to her car. That you got upset and said something about not liking to be rejected. She said she felt cornered. I paused the audio. I felt my hands go cold. I told Nell, that's not possible. I didn't follow her. I don't even know what car she drives. I took an Uber, straight from the bar to my apartment. There was a pause, and then she replied with another message. I know. That's why I started doubting it. But Mallory told everyone you probably just didn't remember clearly. That it wasn't about intent, it was about how she felt. That's when I realized Mallory wasn't just supporting Delilah. She was shaping the story. Feeding it details. Phrasing things carefully. She never said, he did this. She said things like, he doesn't realize how he comes across, or maybe he forgot part of it. That kind of manipulation doesn't leave fingerprints. But it leaves impact. And suddenly, it clicked. The missing puzzle piece I'd been circling since the knock on my door. Delilah didn't create this on her own. She might have been hurt, confused, embarrassed, but the escalation? That wasn't her. That was Mallory. My sister. I could see it clearly now. The night of the date, Delilah felt dismissed. She expected something different. Maybe validation. Maybe more attention. And when she didn't get it, it stung. She probably vented to Mallory right away. And instead of giving her perspective, instead of talking her down, Mallory amplified it. I could hear her voice in my head. You don't deserve that. He's always like this with women. This is just how he treats people when he thinks he's better than them. And from there, a story formed. Maybe not even fully intentionally at first. But once the idea was out there, once someone said the word unwanted, or cornered, or uncomfortable, it spiraled. And now I was living in that spiral. I asked Mr. Clement what I should do if it became a formal report. He said that if that happened, we would respond with everything I had. And he made one thing very clear. If any of this becomes part of a legal complaint, we will be submitting a counter-report. Not just to defend you, but to pursue action for defamation. I wasn't looking for revenge. I wasn't even looking for a fight. I just wanted my name cleared. But something inside me had shifted. I couldn't pretend this was just a misunderstanding anymore. This was personal. That night, I told my parents. I didn't want to. I didn't want to drag them into something so raw. But I couldn't keep pretending everything was normal. I showed them the receipts, the screenshots, the messages from Nell, the Find My iPhone location. My father didn't say much at first. Just stared at the screen with a tight jaw. My mother kept whispering, no, no, she wouldn't do that. Not to you. Not like this. But I could see it sinking in. Then I said the words I never imagined saying about my own sister. Mallory knew what she was doing. My mom asked, but why? Why would she do this to you? And the truth is, I don't know. I don't know if it's envy, or bitterness, or some twisted idea of justice. I don't know if she was manipulated by Delilah, or if she was the one pulling the strings the whole time. But I do know that she helped someone lie to the police about me. She tried to let it ride out, hoping I'd fold. Hoping I'd admit to something just to smooth it over. But I didn't. And I won't. She lit the match. And now, all I can do is make sure the world sees who struck it. After everything that had happened, Delilah's story, Mallory's involvement, the knock at my door, I hit a wall. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating much. I kept replaying the same moments in my head, the date, the accusation, the quiet way my sister watched it all unfold. I couldn't stop thinking, what if I didn't have the Uber receipt? What if I deleted that group chat message? What if I hadn't remembered that Find My iPhone was still active? I don't say this lightly, if I hadn't kept all those pieces, I might be in handcuffs right now. Or worse, fighting to keep my job, my reputation, my freedom. That kind of fear changes you. And that's when I decided I wasn't going to wait for someone else to speak the truth. I was going to speak it myself. So I did. I spent a day putting everything together. Not just the receipts and screenshots, but the timeline, the behavior, the shifts in tone from Delilah and Mallory. I blurred all identifying information, no names, no specific locations, no personal callouts. Just the facts. Clean. Honest. Structured. I posted it anonymously to a local subreddit. The title was simple. Be careful who you ghost, and who their friends are. I didn't promote it. I didn't message anyone. I didn't even comment after I posted it. I just walked away and waited. Within hours, it gained traction. At first, people were sympathetic. Some just commented on how scary the situation was. But then the dots started connecting. Someone asked if this was about a woman named Delilah, without me ever mentioning the name. Then someone else chimed in, this sounds like the girl who broke down crying outside of Ryman's taproom last week. I felt my stomach drop. It was happening. People knew. And then came the flood. Other users posted vague screenshots from someone's Instagram story. Lines like, some guys just can't handle rejection. Or, funny how saying no turns into stalking. The posts lined up perfectly with our date. The timing matched, the phrasing matched, the energy matched. It was clear who they were talking about, even without saying it. Then came the biggest moment of all. Someone shared a direct message Delilah had sent to a mutual friend just days after our date. He completely embarrassed me. I felt like nothing. I wanted to get back at him, but Mallory told me to let it go. I should have. There it was. Clear as day. The motivation. The manipulation. The lie. I screenshotted it, saved it, and added it to my folder. I hadn't needed to say a single additional word. The post began to spread on its own, Reddit, Facebook groups, even a few people on Twitter. The story was out. And even though I didn't name anyone, the people who needed to recognize it, did. Including Mallory. She called me the next morning. First time since the police visit. Her voice wasn't angry or apologetic. It was flat. Cold. Are you happy now? She asked. You're ruining her life. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Not I'm sorry. Not I made a mistake. Just, you're ruining her. I took a breath and replied, you tried to ruin mine. She was quiet for a second. Then she said, she was hurting. You could have let it go. Let it go. You tried to teach me a lesson, Mallory, I said. This is your grade. And I hung up. I told Mr. Clement everything. He advised me to continue keeping records but said that as long as Delilah didn't push forward with anything legally, I didn't need to file anything myself. If she did? We were ready to move forward with a counterclaim. So far, she's been silent. Delilah hasn't posted anything publicly since the Reddit thread gained traction. Her accounts went private. Her story vanished. I heard, through someone in the network, that she lost an opportunity to freelance with a design agency after someone flagged the Reddit post and sent it to the hiring manager. They didn't want drama. I didn't send it. I didn't have to. She didn't recant. She didn't apologize. She just disappeared. Mallory, on the other hand, tried to reframe the narrative. She posted things like, some people would rather humiliate their own family than admit they were wrong, and, it's sad when your own blood turns on you. She blocked me. Then unblocked me a week later. Still no apology. I didn't reach out. Neither did my parents. After I showed them everything, they took their own space. My dad told her to stay away from the house for a while. My mom cried when she read the full breakdown I'd written. She kept asking, why would she do this? I don't have an answer for her. Maybe Mallory was jealous. Maybe she didn't like the idea that I had boundaries she didn't approve of. Maybe she felt like she was helping Delilah prove something. I don't know. What I do know is that she made a choice. She chose not to believe me. She chose to double down. She chose silence after the truth came out. A few days later, I packed up my apartment. I moved out of the city. My company let me shift into a remote role, and I found a new place a few hours away, small town, quiet neighborhood. I haven't told many people where I went. Not because I'm hiding, but because I needed distance. Distance from people who saw me as a story to shape. Distance from those who thought teaching me a lesson meant destroying my life. I started therapy last week. My first session, I sat in silence for 10 minutes. Then I said, my sister tried to ruin my life because her friend was embarrassed. The therapist blinked. Wrote something down. I almost laughed. That's the hardest part now, relearning how to trust. How to not question every word. Every smile. Every hand on my shoulder. When someone tells me a story, I find myself asking, what are they not saying? And when someone compliments me, I ask, why? What do they want? That's what this kind of betrayal does. It changes how you see the world. But I'm here. I'm rebuilding. I wake up. I go to work. I walk to the coffee shop in the morning. I read. I rest. I write things down. I breathe. I don't know what healing is supposed to look like, but I think this is a start. And if there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's this. Keep your receipts. Trust your gut. And never underestimate the damage someone can do, not just with what they say, but with what they allow others to believe. Thank you for watching the video, like it if you watched the video to the end and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.